Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm gonna do kind of a different video. If you have watched YouTube for a while, you probably have heard of Draw My Life videos. These were really popular a couple years ago, maybe more than 5 years ago. Well, I had always planned to do one, and apparently I even wrote out everything I wanted to talk about and draw in my Draw My Life video, but I never did it. I know I remember trying it a few times and it just not working, and then me thinking, okay, I have to buy this or do it this way, and it never happened. And literally at the end of this, you'll see when is it that I wrote this. So this is going to be a Draw My Life video without drawing. So I just thought it was funny. I came across this as I was cleaning. I had a whole binder of Mommy to Phoenix video ideas and a bunch of stuff. I was happy to see that I had done most of them, and then the other half of them was like bottle reviews or certain like baby stuff from Phoenix. So obviously I could no longer do those, but it was really interesting to see. So I'm gonna kind of read it. I really just jotted down things and years on here, so I'm not gonna like go too much into detail because I don't want this to be super long, but I might add a little like to make it make sense. So you're gonna see me looking down because I have the papers here and I have the monitor here watching the kids. I just put them to sleep anyway. So Draw My Life. I was born on May 20th 1986 in Jersey City, New Jersey, and I was born to my mom. My dad was not there. I was born to my mom, my twin sisters, and my brother. So those are my siblings. My brother is 3 years older than me, and my sisters are 5 years older than me. And my dad was not in the picture at the time. My sister's dad, however, lived in Florida, and he was always super nice to me, and if he sent them something, he sent me something. Him and my mom were really close friends, you know, obviously years after she had my brother with him, and so I considered him my dad. So till this day I call him dad, and I consider him my dad, even though he's my older sister's dad. So he was never really my stepdad, like he wasn't with my mom while I was born, but they stood really close friends, and like I said, he treated me like one of his own. My mom had kidney failure practically most of my life. I think I was about 7 when I think she officially, like, they failed, and she was in and out of the hospital a lot. So I spent a lot of time with my grandma, and my grandma actually lived with us. I was a big time mama's girl. I've noticed I don't have years on here. I have years as I go down. I start getting into like the years of things, but I was a big time mama's girl. I slept with my mom until I was 18 years old, and I was just super, super close to my mom. So having her in and out of the hospital was really hard for me because I had to sleep by myself, and I felt really alone since I was such a mama's girl. My sisters were more of a grandma's girl, so they were really close to my grandma, and my grandma was always around. So that was tough on me. In first grade, my mom cut my hair like a boy. Super, super short. I had a little curly fro. I hated it, and because I never wanted her to brush my hair because I was always tangly and it would hurt, and so she was like, forget this, I'm cutting it. And that is why I will never cut Avery's hair. So the summer, fast forward to the summer after 3rd grade, my mom decided that we were going to move to Florida. Just me, her, and my sisters moved to Florida with but my sister's dad lived in Florida, so we moved, and he helped us move and got us a place and all that stuff. We were moving to Florida. My sisters were not happy about this. I was in 3rd grade. It was no big deal to me. My sisters were older, and they just had more friends and all that stuff here, and they really did not want to go. In result of them not being happy, they made some poor decisions and ran away from home a lot, which left me with my mom again, just kind of being closer and closer to my mom. My mom cried a lot, and it was a tough a tough time, but it definitely brought me closer. At this point in my life, I had big glasses, like huge. When I look back, I'm like, how did my mom let me get those? Like, why? And now glasses like that are coming back. Anyway, I was really chunky and just not, I guess I would say, you would say it was that awkward stage that every little girl and boy go through, where they're just like not the cutest. That was around that time for me. So one of my sisters, they're twins, one of them got married, and I wrote here moved to Florida, but she actually stayed. One of them got married, and then the other one moved back to New Jersey. So it was just me and my mom, and we lived in Florida for 3 years, and then my mom decided that she did not like it anymore over there, and so we moved back to New Jersey. And so it was me, my mom, my sister, my grandmother, and my uncle. We all lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. And then my other sister, since she had got married, she stayed in Florida. Now let's get to 7th grade. This is when I moved back, and life got great. I was a cheerleader. I made a lot of friends. I lost a lot of weight. I got contacts, and it was great. So 7th grade coming back was awesome. It was in New Jersey again. I was around old friends and family, and things were good. Now 1999 rolls around. I'm in 8th grade, and that's where I meet my first boyfriend. So that was my first official boyfriend. I met him in 8th grade. My mom was not happy. She did not like him. He was 13 going on 30. So he was very mature for his age, and very hung out with older people, and just the total opposite of me, let's say. So my mom was not happy, but let's just say I cried a lot, but no one could convince me to leave him. Like, you know how it goes. So anyway, and then in the year 2000 comes along. My niece was born. She was my little princess from day one. I was so excited. She was just my world. I loved her. I love her. And I was graduating 8th grade, and my sister was pregnant, so she had her around that time. High school runs around to, here it is, year 2000, and I enter high school, and my first boyfriend of 2 years at this point went to a different high school. So as you know, things just didn't work out. He also dropped out of high school, so that changed things a lot, because I was just living the high school life, and he was, like I said, 13 going on 30. And a lot of things changed big time, and eventually he broke up with me. I was heartbroken. Of course, he then moved to Florida and had a baby. So, and all I could think was at that point was, I'm glad it wasn't me, because I was 16 at that point. So listen to your moms, because they're always right. Then high school was fun. I was a cheerleader. My first job was a Dairy Queen. I also had a daycare job. I had a summer job in an office. I cheered for 2 cheerleading teams, my high school team and like an all-star city team. I hung out with my friends all the time. Things were great. It was high school. I would say I was more on the popular crowd. I was a cheerleader. Obviously I wasn't like most popular, but you know, I hung out with, I think, the popular crowd. I hate the whole crowd thing, but it was a thing. I don't know how it is now. Anyway, so high school was good. For the most part, high school was good. We went to dances all the time. We had innocent fun most of the time, you know, mischievous things here and there that high school people do. I was always hanging out with bunch of cheerleaders. That was like my group of friends. And then I hung out with the girls who also didn't really like the cheerleaders. I was kind of like in the middle. But one night I want to say this was my junior year, or the summer going into junior year, or the summer after junior year. I can't remember. But my friend got hit by a car, and it was so scary. We were leaving a party. It was a bunch of us cheerleaders, and I don't know if we were like leaving the party or we just left the party and we were planning to go back. I can't remember, but we were all like crossing the street, and then like I was crossing this way. I think I was crossing with a friend, and she was coming this way, and this is how I remember it. I could be wrong exactly how it happened, but this is exactly how I remember it. She was standing in between like two parked cars, so she was already on the street, and when she turned around to start crossing, a car was coming and hit her, and the car was turning, so it definitely should not have been going. There's the kids. It definitely should not have been going as fast as it was because it was coming off a turn. If you turn, you should be going slowly. So yeah, I still remember it hitting her and us just like not knowing what happened, where she was, and she was under a parked car, and I still clearly can just see it all in my head. It's probably up there with one of the top moments in my life that I can clearly vividly remember. Those things that you're like, I wish I didn't see that because I can't unsee it. And being a teenager in high school, this was traumatic. We were just like, I remember thinking that she was dead, and thank the Lord she was not dead. She went through a lot, but she made it out, and if you looked at her now, you would have no idea that ever happened to her. Thank God. But I remember being so scared and just thinking like, oh my God, what's gonna happen now? And the scene just filled up, and people were asking us questions, and the cops were there, and just all the people, mind you, we were at a party just up the block, so all the people from the party ended up coming down. It was crazy. We all went to the hospital, but we couldn't really see her. It was intense, and I wish this on nobody, especially not somebody in high school. So I wrote all that here. She was strong, and after months, she had to be in the hospital for months. She was back to normal, thank God. And I think that it was right before her senior year, so I think I was a junior. That's why I feel like I was a junior, because I know it was going into her senior year. I could be wrong. About high school, I wrote here that I dated a lot of unimportant people, you know, wasted time with people, and all that time wasn't important, you know. Then in 2004, I graduated high school, and at this point, me and my mom moved upstairs to a different apartment, and everybody else stayed downstairs. Remember I told you we lived, all those people in two rooms, and it was just chaos. But me and my mom moved upstairs. I finally had my own room for the first time ever in my life, and it was amazing. And that was throughout my senior year. I graduated high school. I started community college, and I changed my major to psychology. My major started off as early childhood. I loved early childhood throughout high school, and I thought that's really what I wanted to do. But then I changed it to psychology, and I started working in an office, and my mom was still in and out of the hospital throughout all of this. So all this is happening, my life is happening, I'm in high school, I'm doing all this, and my mom was still in and out of the hospital. When I would work on my lunch breaks, I would drive to the hospital to see her, because after work I'd have to go to school, so I couldn't see her because by the time I got out of school it was so late. And so I would go on my lunchtime, buy her the stuff she needs, take her, or a guy I was dating at the time, he would visit her on the days I couldn't visit her and take her stuff, and it was tough. So all this is happening in my life, but still my mom in and out of the hospital and taking care of her and doing all of that. At this point, both my sisters lived in Florida, and my niece. Yes, it was so sad when my niece was taken from me and left to Florida. I want to say she was about 5 years old at this point, and it was so very sad to be without my sister and my niece. And so at this point it was just me, my mom, and my grandma lived downstairs. So it was really hard seeing my mom suffer a lot, and you know, you always have that guilt, like I could have done more, I could have been better, I could have been there more, and all that stuff. But it was tough. So now let's fast forward. Although all this was happening to my mom, she was always in happy spirits for the most part. I mean, she had her attitude, but you know, she was still her. She had her mind, and she could talk to you, and you know, fully functional and all that stuff. So She was literally my best friend. I could talk to her about anything. All my friends would come over and talk to her about anything, and she would make us laugh, and it was always a fun time. So 2007 comes along, and they had to amputate my mom's toes, and this was tough. So first they did one foot, and that's why me and my sisters all have a tattoo on our foot that represented the first time. And she could still get around. Believe it or not, you could walk without your toes. Obviously it wasn't as easy, and she had already had limited mobility. Not limited, she walked around, but you know, aches and pains and the legs hurting and you know, all that stuff that comes with being sick. And so that just made it a little harder. And so we told her that if they ended up having to amputate the other set of toes, she would have to get more help and move to Florida with my sisters. My one sister was a stay-at-home wife, and she could take more care of her. I worked 2 jobs, and I went to school full-time, so it was really tough. My grandma was always there, like they helped each other and stuff. She had her, but so in April of 2008, my mom moved to Florida, and I lived on my own. I was 2008, I think I was 21 at the time, and it was tough. I stayed in the apartment we lived in, and but I made it work. So for 4 months I lived all by myself, and my grandma was still downstairs a couple apartments down. I went to Florida to visit, I believe once or twice, and I was in school and doing all these things, so it wasn't as like, you know, a big change because I was just so busy, and my mom was always in the hospital, so I was always home alone most of the time. She probably was in the hospital more days than she was home at times, so I was kind of used to being alone in that aspect, so it wasn't such super hard change, but it wasn't easy either. So in April of 08 is when she moved to Florida, and in September of 08 I get the news that it's my mom's last weeks of life. She needed a surgery that could have possibly, she would have had the surgery, she could have probably died on the table, and if she didn't have the surgery, she was going to just be in so much pain, and it would have just been back and forth, and eventually, or if she did survive the surgery, she would probably be in the hospital, and it would take her a lot to recover, and she would never fully recover. It was a lot, but it was a decision that had to be made, and she decided that she just wanted to go home and get off all her treatment and just die at home. And so it was now September of 2008. I'm about to start the university because I was in community college. I was about to start university, and I went to Florida, and I spent that last week with my mom and my sisters and my niece and family, and it was great. She was fully herself. She was awake. She drank a beer. She smoked a cigarette. You would never know that it was her last week of life. But 2 days before I left, she was like sleeping more, and I think the day before I left, she was practically asleep all day. She was up here and there, but pretty much asleep all day. And then the morning, we knew she had a little bit of time left, and so I had to start school, and she wanted me to be back. So I came back and started school on the 2nd, I believe it was, and on the 3rd in the morning I get the call that she had passed away. So I wasn't there for when she actually passed away, which some might think is odd or is like messed up, but I think that that's just the way it needed to happen, because I was so close to my mom that it would have just been so hard. She was cremated, and I have her ashes, so there was no like funeral or anything like that. She died at home in my sister's house, and family came to view her there before they took her, and so, you know, all that. So yeah, September 3rd she died, and I also started in university. Okay, I'm almost done. But So now my mom has passed, she has no more suffering, things in that aspect. My heart felt, what's the way to say it, at ease, at peace. I felt honestly that she was not suffering anymore. My mom always told me that she was, my mom was in the hospital a lot, so it was always times where it's like, is this it? Is she gonna die now? Or she would sit and feel like, oh, I'm gonna die or whatever. And she always told me, she was like, I'm not gonna die until I know that you can live on your own and you're okay. Because I was the baby, so it was like important to her. And so I had lived on my own for 4 months while she was in Florida, and so I felt like all that prepared me for it. And I knew that she truly let go because she knew I was okay, so I knew I needed to be okay. And I struggled with that a lot at one point because I was like, why was I okay? I shouldn't have been okay. I should have been more dependent and she would have still been alive, and you know, all the things you go through when somebody passes. But all in all, I really was at peace because I witnessed a lot of suffering from my mother, and she was so young. She was only 43 when she died. So it was a tough year. I had 2 roommates come and go, and in July of 2009, so my mom died in 2008, July of 2009, I got laid off. It was also my last year of college, and I had to do an internship, and I got unemployment, so I figured I was just gonna stay on unemployment. I was gonna do my internship and just enjoy that last year of school without working, because I had worked since I was 13 years old. But I was still looking, although I was just focused on school, I was still looking for jobs online and seeing what was out there and keeping that open. And so I came across personal ads. So I never knew that Craigslist had personal ads. Go figure. And so at this point, I would read them every day. It became part of my like routine. I would look for jobs and read the ads, look for jobs. And some of them were so funny, and it was funny. But one day I read one that just stuck out to me and was like, wow, that's exactly what I would write if I wrote an ad. And so I replied to the ad. And can you guess who was on the other side of that ad? You guessed it. It was John. That was corny. So on August 20th, 2009, I talked to who is now my husband for the first time, and things moved really fast. We fell in love and we moved in just after 4 months later. Then, the worst snowstorm of the year of 2009, we went to New York City, and under the big Rockefeller tree, he asked me to be his wife, and of course I said yes. So that year we went on, we enjoyed being engaged. On May of 2010, I graduated college, and which was one of my greatest accomplishments because my mom really wanted me to graduate college, and so it felt really good doing something, and I knew she was watching over me. I'm very proud of me. That same day, I got a call from a daycare to be an instructor, and I got an interview and I got the job, and things were good until my second week of starting that job. I get a call that something happened to my grandmother. And as you know, my grandma lived 2 floors down from me in the building. I rushed home and I saw her dead body laying in her bedroom next to her bed. She had a heart attack, or what we think was a heart attack, and she was laying there on the floor of her room for 2 days before she was found. And it was one of those things, again, that I vividly can remember. If I close my eyes, I can see it, and it's just something that you can't unsee, and I wish I could. And a lot of us think that my grandma died of a broken heart. At this point, it was a year after my mom had died, and my grandma, she kept trucking. She didn't really show her grief that much, but you know, she wore all black. I think she wasn't wearing earrings or lipstick or makeup. My grandma was wearing like lipstick, makeup, purses, everything matched, high heels. Yes, she was like working it. And I don't think she did all that for about a year or so. And we really think that she died of a broken heart. Actually, I think this was 2 years after my mom died. My mom died in 2008. This was 2010, so 2 years after my mom died. My grandmother also passed away. So it is now 2011, and I started planning my wedding, and I had the new job, and April 20th, 2011, actually no, I started planning my wedding before that. April 20th, 2011, we became Mr. and Mrs. and we started trying right away for Phoenix. And 2 months later, I was so happy to find out that I was pregnant. And at this point, I started watching YouTube videos like crazy and watching. It's the first time I really even heard about YouTube. I started watching YouTube videos and started watching baby bottle reviews and diaper bag reviews and reviews, everything baby. And then I came across the community of moms and I was like, wow, I never even knew that all this was out there in the YouTube world. So 3 months before the baby, my husband gets laid off from his job, which you can think was pretty stressful. After newly married, about to have a first baby, and he gets laid off. So now it's July 4th, and I started YouTube. My first video was a YouTube diaper bag review, and April 10th of 2012 was my last day of work, and I was leaving on maternity leave, and I find out that I too was being laid off because the daycare I was working for was going to close down. So here we are, newlyweds, well, almost a year, not even a year married, pregnant, about to have a baby, and we both got laid off. If we made it through that, we can make it through anything. So here comes August 18th, 2012. After 3 long days in the hospital, 6 total, Phoenix arrived. 6 pounds, 12 ounces, 19 inches long. And he forever changed our life. And when I wrote this, my last thing says, now he's 8 months old and I'm planning his first birthday. And life couldn't get any better. I love my family. Stay tuned to see where our journey has taken us. So crazy that that's when I wrote this. Phoenix was 8 months old and he's 5 months old now. 5 months old, 5 years old now. So that was my non-drawing Draw My Life part 1. I am going to do a part 2 of everything that happened since, but I need to write it down. And if you've been watching my YouTube, you kind of know what happened because that's when I started doing YouTube and started evolving. But for the people who don't know, I can tell you, but Phoenix was 8 months old. So crazy. So thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. If there's anything I touched on that you want maybe a longer story on and you want me to do a story time video with you about, oh my god, I can't talk. If there's anything I touched on that you want me to elaborate more and do a story time video about it, let me know down in the comments, and I will probably be doing a part 2 sometime in the future. And I have to kind of write it out and stuff. But I hope you enjoyed this Draw My Life video without drawing. I don't know what I'm gonna name it, but something like that. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.